And what's going on?
No, not much. I'm just hanging out.
So you've we've talked about this before. Your passion for roller coasters
Yeah,
and for
theme
theme
parks and
parks and thrill rides in general. Um, where have you been in the past few weeks?
well, now that the summer season is here, and that's the main time when all these parks are open. Some of the parks got to open, so I've been Six Flags Great Adventure, Donny Park, Hershey Park, which are in Pennsylvania. I've been to Lake Compounce up in Connecticut. I've been down to Florida to SeaWorld Orlando, Busch Gardens Tampa, Islands of Adventure at Universal Studios, the two fun spots in Florida. One's in Kissimmee, and the other one is in Orlando. So I've gotten to a couple parks in the last month.
Yeah, just a couple. You've rattled off like almost what was that, like a dozen parks or more,
Close to.
something like that. So let's start with Six Flags. What's it like at Six Flags right now when you go? Um, Obviously, this is mid-pandemic, post-pandemic, whatever you want to call it. Like, what's it like in parks right now, and how do you feel like they're handling a lot of these things?
Yeah, a lot of the parks all had to make these big changes to kind of get it to safe, or whatever the local ordinance is or whatever the governor had put on. But Six Flags Great Adventure has, I think they've been doing pretty well. I think they're up there out of the ones I've visited that are like in the top of the better parks that are doing a better job. So the main thing is now they're limiting capacity, which is nice. The park's not as crowded as it normally would be.
Sure.
But so how Six Flags does it, which is a little bit different than all the other ones, is all the parks you need a reservation. Like you
Okay.
go online with your ticket number or season pass number, or whatever, and then you pick the day you want, and you can get in that day. But Great Adventure has it, you have to pick a time that you enter the park. So they're trying not to flood everyone in at 8 or 10 o'clock or whatever open is.
So are you limited in the amount of time you're allowed to spend on the park?
No, it's just when you actually enter. Like you go on and it could say, okay, the 11 o'clock to 11:30 slot is full. So then you can't enter the park then. Like you'd have to pick 11:30 to 12. And if you show up to the toll booth at 11 and you show your reservation and they're like, you're early, they won't let you in. You have to be closer to your time to
So
actually enter the park.
is that more to limit capacity, or not so much limit capacity, but limit
Crowds.
like the crowd, like a flow of people in, so that you can kind of control the amount of people that are going to show up at a given time, as opposed
Yeah.
to, okay, we're going to limit it to, I don't know, 50% capacity, whatever the limitation that they've set is, and rather than having all 50% capacity show up at 11 a.m., 8 a.m., whenever the park opens, they're just
Mm-hmm.
doing that to stagger the.
Yeah, it's just so you don't have a mass rush of, like let's say your capacity for the day is 10,000 people. I just eyeballing a number. You don't
Right.
want all 10,000 to show up at open. You kind of want to like, all right, we're going to
Right.
put, each half hour, 500 people will be allowed to kind of flow through. That way you can social distance because, spreading out 6 feet, you're all the way in the parking lot, like you're spread out pretty good, to get in through the security system.
Yeah. So what kind of security system do they have now? Has anything changed as far as like the way that they're screening people, how they're dealing with the crowds? Have they made any changes or upgrades like that?
There's been a lot. Again, all the parks have made a lot. They've invested a lot into these changes to actually be allowed to open. So Six Flags and I think it was Tampa Busch Gardens had it, and Hershey Park had it, where for security, it's like these two poles that scan you or something. I don't know how the technology works, but supposedly they've tested it works. You just walk by it and it'll detect you if you had a weapon or something on you, and then they flag you and you can't go in. So that one's so
Okay.
easy. There's
That
no like you're not. I guess it's a big metal detector. I don't know the technology behind it, but you just walk through, and then so you're not getting stopped and like someone's wanding you down or whatever. It's just all right, walk, walk, and there's guys looking on computer screens that I guess they're given whatever saying if this person's good or not.
so is that supposed to be a better like, is that better than just like the traditional metal detectors or like what we would see in like the airport? Do you think,
It
or is it
it
supposed to
sounds
be?
it sounds like it is. I haven't done research on it. I have not tried to do it. Like I'm not going to try and bring a weapon in just to say, oh, I'm just trying to see if your system.
No, 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 no.
I caught you. This was just a
I,
study. I'm not. I'm going to go put
yeah,
it back in my car.
yeah. I don't recommend doing that either.
Yeah.
So they've got that. Are they like taking everybody's temperature as you walk
Yeah.
in and things
So
like that?
all the parks are doing temperature. I would say it's actually split. So like Six Flags, Donny Park, SeaWorld Orlando, they actually have a like a body scanner. And again, you're just walking through this like it's in a tent. You walk through and you're supposed to take your hat off. Oh, and Busch Gardens Tampa had it too. You just walk by the camera or whatever, and there's a someone from first aid is sitting watching a monitor, and they just give you a thumbs up, and you keep going. The other parks, I know Islands of Adventure, they did it on your temple, like the little scanner, the little
Yeah,
forehead thing, and the other parks were just on your forehead.
yeah. I think the camera, it's supposed to be an infrared camera that's like
Yeah.
specifically calibrated for, 100, whatever they decide to consider a fever.
Yeah,
I
all
think
the parks.
it's kind of cool how they've done that, because I couldn't imagine. Well, I mean, you've seen it. It sounds like, where they're taking everybody's individual temperature, and
Mhm.
like, they've got to stand there with the gun and
Yeah.
all that, and do it individually. That seems like a much more daunting
It just
way of.
time wise,
Yeah,
because
it
then you
slows
actually
everything
get the
down.
weight. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Um, Once you're in the park, so you've got the new scanners, the temperatures, excuse me, the thermometer, the infrared camera.
Mhm.
You've got to make a reservation,
Yep.
and then once you're in the park, what's it like?
So once you get through, scan your ticket, you're good. Once you're in, it's pretty similar. The only real differences is in, um, so the rides they're separating you, like every other row,
Right.
or even every two row, depending on how close you are to someone. So on the ride vehicles itself, you are staggered out because everyone has to be 6 feet apart.
Sure.
Um, which it's nice because like went on one of the water raft rides like Congo Rapids at Six Flags or Thunder Canyon at Donny Park, and like it holds 8 people, but you're literally 4 feet across, so you get the whole raft to yourself because it's one party per group. So you
So
go
in a
with.
situation like that, you literally get the entire raft to
Yep,
yourself, and you don't have to ride with anybody you don't know.
exactly.
That sounds awesome. What about like when you're on a roller coaster? So you mentioned that they're doing every other row.
Yes.
Um, are you just riding with your party when you're?
Yes, it's one party per row. So like if I went by myself to the park, I get the whole row to myself. It's they're not gonna like cram, like usually they try and group together. They're like, all right, let's. Oh, you're by yourself. Oh, here's 2 people. All right, you're gonna be in a row with 4. Whatever.
Yeah.
This it is one group per row.
So you actually get, as a consequence of this, you're actually getting more space and like almost a better experience than previously, because there's less crowds. You're getting all this stuff to yourself. Has it affect? Do you feel like it's affected the wait times and the lines at all, or have they
So
done a good job of managing that?
um, I think because it's spaced out, so you're not getting as many people on the ride. It's gonna take longer to kind of get through the line itself. And even in the line, so there's dots or lines that you stand on. So throughout the whole queue line, there's markers that where you're supposed to so you're 6 feet from the person in front of you, and it's they're noticeable. It
Yeah.
just stop here, and then when the next person moves up off that dot, you move to the next dot. You can keep your space out in line.
Right. Do you feel like people are actually like following that, or are they just kind of like you get in line and
So it's very interesting. Out of all the parks I've gone to, the Florida parks do the best. I don't know, like people stay on the dots in the Florida parks. Islands of Adventure, nobody would like. Everyone was on the dot. Everyone had a mask on because you have to wear masks in the park.
so 100% of the time you're wearing a mask now?
Yes. The only exceptions, like when you're in the park, you have to have the mask on. They won't let you in the gate without a mask.
Right.
If you have food or drink, you're allowed to take it down and eat and drink. They have zones set up called relaxation zones. So you go into this zone. There's tables spaced out. You sit at the table, take your mask off. You can take a breather, whatever. You can do whatever you want. Just sit there by yourself, whatever, and have the mask off. And then when you get up, put the mask back on, go about your day.
Now is that all parks? Like, are all parks requiring masks right now, or are there like
Yeah, all
specific
of them
ones?
right now are requiring them. Like I said, the Florida parks, people pretty much wore them the entire time. Donny Park was one of the worst ones of people not wearing a mask. Six Flags, a lot of people like to pull it down as a chin strap. Lake compounds, about 50-50 there, you know. But for the most part, it's the Florida parks. They did the best. I don't know if people just were like, well, I spent all this money to come down here. Maybe I'm going to listen to the signs. I don't know
Yeah.
why.
Well, I mean, is there anybody policing everybody as far as the masks? Like, is there anyone that's there like
Usually
as an enforcement?
employees.
Oh,
There's
they do
employees
actually.
wandering around. I know Islands of Adventure, if someone did pull it down, the employees were on top of it. They're like, hey, can you put your mask up? And at SeaWorld Orlando, they weren't even sending trains out until someone, like, if you were like, oh, I'm in my seat, let me pull my mask down, they're like, we can't dispatch a train until your mask is up. So the employees are doing a fantastic job right now. They're doing what they're supposed to be doing. They're trying to enforce the rules the best they can, but sometimes people don't want to listen.
Oh yeah, there's always that one person that tries to hold everything up. So they're holding the train if one person doesn't have their mask up. What happens if they release the train and before it's even fully out of the station but it's rolling, someone decides to pull it down? Is there a way to stop them, or is it kind of like at that point it's like, all right, you're on the ride, you're on the ride?
At that point, it's nothing, because if they were to stop it, then to restart, it's a whole process
To get it going again.
it's going to cause more issues to stop it then. Because
Right.
they could stop it on the lift, and then you got a maintenance come to reset the lift, and it's just.
How do you do that? How do you actually reset? The train's gone out, and they stop it on the lift for one reason or another. How does that end up getting what needs to be done to reset it?
So, like, a big thing is cell phones on rides. You're not supposed to have them. It's people don't realize that if you're holding it and let go, well, now it's hitting somebody in the face and probably doing some damage.
Sure.
So like if they catch you, like because the ride operator watches the train as it leaves and they see, okay, someone pulled their phone out, they'll wait till it fully engages the bottom of the lift, that the whole train is on the lift. They'll lift stop it, and then they'll have an employee go out and take your phone from you, and you can get it back from security.
But yeah,
But so restarting it though,
yeah, that
they have maintenance comes. They have a key and they can turn it. I think it's a lift start, and then they press the button and it resets it. But it's maintenance has to come and reset it.
so it's not just something that it's not like a huge operation, but it's just a specific person has to be
Because
there to.
Not a lot of the they don't give that access to a lot of the, like a supervisor might be able to do it, but usually
Right.
if they want maintenance to reset it.
Is there any particular reason that something like that would be maintenance related or specific to maintenance as opposed to like a supervisor? Or is it
No,
just a matter of this
I
is
think
the
it's because
standard
every park
operating?
is different too.
Right.
Some parks will give some parks will let the supervisors do it. Some parks it's maintenance, just whatever their park policy is.
So it's not like a I don't know national law or rule
No.
or something like that. It's just a matter of each park will have a specific designated person that's able to reset the lift and
Yes.
do all that. So you've got the mask on. What are they doing, or have you seen that's being done to uh, disinfect anything,
Well, yeah,
if
that's so
anything?
that's the next thing that they're doing, and they are cleaning everything. So, like at Six Flags Your Adventure, they have a clean team. They look like Ghostbusters. They have these packs with sprayers, and it's the chemical that kills the virus. They walk around the park spraying garbage cans, benches, all the counters at food stand, like all the high touch areas, handrails. At the rides, I think it's like every hour they stop, they spray down the trains, cycle them just once to dry, and then you're back on. Islands of Adventure, when I went on the new Harry Potter roller coaster, Hagrid's,
Mm.
I got to ride it 6 times, like throughout the day,
Yeah.
and 4 out of the 6 times there was an employee in walking the queue with a spray bottle and a rag, cleaning the handrails. So
Oh
like they
wow.
were, yeah, I've kind of figured it that he would go through the whole line, clean it once, and then start back over, and just that was his job all day because it just seemed every time like right, I'm like this
That's like
guy,
the most monotonous job ever. It's like, oh,
yeah,
you see
but
that handrail that you just cleaned? Well, go back and clean it again. Do that another 1,000 times today, and yeah, in about 8 hours we'll let you go home. It's
but you
almost
kind
like
of need it now with
you do
everything,
you do.
and that's these parks. Like I give it to the parks; they are doing a fantastic job with cleaning, and like they have all the protocols there. The staff is doing their job. They're cleaning. They're making sure everyone is having a mask on, whether they're listening or not, but they're telling them. And the other one of the big things, so like SeaWorld is known for its shows, with
Yeah.
the orcas and that. And I, it was amazing that they did a fantastic job in leaving. So as soon as the show is over, they say, okay, everyone sit, don't move. Then they'd have a flag, people like other employees with flags, and then if they in front of your section, they'll put the flag up, and then you go row. But they were like, all right, first row, third row, because they were spaced every row.
Yeah.
And so they were leaving like that. And there was other employees there making sure people were like, hey, don't move yet. You can't. We're doing this. Because, everyone leaves at once. Then it's like, all right, there's no social distancing then.
Well, not for nothing, but in a situation like that where you've got, I mean, everybody's been to a movie theater or
Mm-hmm.
a play or a concert or something like that where everybody gets out at the same time. The show ends, obviously, and at the same time, you've got potentially hundreds or thousands of people that are trying to go through all of the same doors. I feel like that's probably a better way to do it, just because of like it makes like quality of life is better for you're not pushing your way out to begin
Yeah.
with. You just get to wait until they do your row, and then you just get to walk out. It's
Yeah.
it's just easier.
No,
Forget the pandemic for a second. That sounds like a much better way to do things just in general, because it's more organized and there's less like bullshit going on, and you can just walk out as opposed to having to like cram in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it was amazing. There were some people, the employees were like, all right, sit, and people would still get up and they'd like give them a face or be like, oh, screw you, I'm still going. It's like first graders can do this in school. They leave like in an orderly fashion. Like you really can't. Like, are you that important that you have to run out of the stadium? Like
Oh,
people
of
just need
course.
patience. I don't.
Yeah, I mean, we could all do with a little bit more patience right now, I think, and I have a feeling that's running a bit thin
Yeah.
for a lot of people. Um, what was it like traveling down to Florida?
So I flew on Frontier
Okay.
out of Philadelphia and into Orlando. Um, they did a fantastic job, actually. I felt very comfortable on the flight. Right before you got on the plane, they took your temperature.
Right.
They said they scrubbed down, sanitized the whole seats. I still brought my own little wipe and did it again, just because I was like, you know what, let me just
Yeah,
do it
it
again.
doesn't hurt.
And they even made the announcements on the plane. I had heard also before I flew that all these planes have HEPA filters. Like they have filters on them that are meant to catch
Trap
night.
everything,
Yeah,
catch all the
and
nonsense in
apparently
the
it's been
air.
on these planes for years, so that's cleaner than you think. The only thing is the filtered air comes out of the jet. So like when
Yeah.
as soon as I got down, sat and I aimed the nozzle right at my like face of my mask, so I was at least breathing in the filtered air. And even when everyone sat down, they said, "Please open your vent. That's gonna have your like." It's a little bit colder on the plane, but I made sure to bring like a little sweatshirt. So I'm like, all right, put that on.
I
Just
mean,
have the
I always maintain that when you're cold, you can layer up. So
yeah.
to ask you to open your vents so that it's filtering more air, is able to cycle the air better. I
Mm.
think wearing a hoodie is a small price to pay for something like that.
Yeah, so I had a hoodie, put it on there, and going down there, I was had an empty seat next to me. So it was like it. I didn't. It wasn't a full flight anyway, but it was. I felt like I was spaced out enough
Yeah.
on the plane, and I felt comfortable flying. I was like, this is fine, and I even took a little nap with the mask on. Like it, it wasn't that uncomfortable really wearing a mask.
You have to wear it the whole time though, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Did the air have what was going through like airport security and all that? Like
Oh,
that's really.
Oh, it was like 5 minutes, if that.
Oh my god! Like I think of airport security, and that's like the portion of flying that I dread.
Well,
'Cause
there's
it's like,
not, not as many flights going out, so it's not
that's a good point.
there's not that many people at the airport now. So it was like right through.
Right through, yeah. So you basically breezed through everything,
Mm.
and the flight's like from Philly to Florida is probably what, 2 hours?
Yeah, 2 hours I think.
So you just breeze through, and then are hotels changing anything right now? Have they changed?
It seems like they are. So the first hotel I was at was next. It's walking distance to SeaWorld Orlando, which I would stay there. It was pretty nice. But right when you went into it, there was a piece of tape on the door with like a barcode. So I could scan it and then it lists all the stuff like we're using this chemical, we deep cleaned your room, and I broke the tape going into the room. So it was like, all right, they cleaned it, they did everything they did, they put this tape over it, and now I'm the first person going in since the cleaning team. So I was like, I felt very comfortable there.
Yeah.
Um,
So now when they're doing that, or like I don't know if you even know this, are most hotels doing the where they sanitize the room and then they put like the what type of tape was it, like just like
it was like a blue, it was like a sticker almost because it had a a scan code on it, UR code or whatever.
uh, shoot, I'm drawing a blank on what it is.
It's the
QR
square.
code, yeah, the
Yeah.
QR codes.
So you could do that with your phone, and then it like just lists what it just gave a procedure on what they did. Like,
Okay.
oh, we sanitize this, we wipe down this, we're using this chemical. Like it just, was saying, hey, this room is cleaned. You could scan, get all the details of what we did, and now you're the first person. Let's not like we had another guest in here and it got turned around.
Yeah, and on top of that, it's like that the last thing that was done before anybody, it's not even like someone like checked or like walked in the room randomly or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like straight up the last people that were in this room were the cleaning crew.
We're the cleaning team.
Yeah, unless they somebody else has those things and they just replaced it. Do they have like a timestamp for when it was put up?
I don't know. It would be tough to duplicate that.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm
I don't know,
by
but
nature a skeptical person, so I was curious if there was any way of like, let's say I don't know.
I don't know, because it had the hotel name on this. Like, it was a real sticker. Like, it was not just like a piece of, duct tape or something. It was like a real. Someone ordered it and had it made.
Right. So then in Florida, when you went into the parks, they had you make a reservation, right?
Yep.
Was the reservation the same as up here, where it's like you pick a time, or is it just
No, so
you're allowed
that
to
it was
go
just
whatever?
reservation, whatever you had. But I go for open anyway, and usually open is not that. Like midday is when you get the mad rush of all the people.
Really?
Yeah.
I would have
Like
expected
an
it to be
hour
the
after
opposite.
the actual opening is when I think they get their busiest.
I wonder why that is.
Well, because no one's getting up at the crack of dawn and being, like I try and be one of the first cars in the parking lot. Like I'm
Right.
like at Islands of Adventure, ended up being the first person in the park. I was first at the gate, and I had all my because you had to have your ID out. You had this because they just scan because they're not touching. They're not touching. You had it. Your ticket ready. I had my ID.
Yeah.
And I was like, here, and then
Let me
first
hit.
one in, ran to the new ride or the newest ride, Hagrid's.
So what? Tell me about the new ride.
Well, that ride it's in the Harry Potter section of Islands of Adventure. Um, it replaced a dueling roller coaster, which was taken out a few years ago, and then they built this one, which
What did they take out?
it was dueling dragons. It was two inverted coasters.
Oh no way! They took that out.
Yeah,
It,
the park says it's because the track had metal fatigue, which I find that hard to believe when you go to Tampa Busch Gardens that still has a roller coaster by the same manufacturer that was built in '93 and Dueling Dragons was '99, and it's still running great. I'm like, how is this one older, still running great, and you had to take yours out because metal fatigue?
that to me sounds like either one of two things. Either it's a bullshit reason and they wanted to replace the ride for one reason or another, or there's some defect in the steel that was used specific to that roller coaster itself.
The rumor I heard was the author of Harry Potter did not like because when they put in Harry Potter and then it was Dueling Dragons and then they overlaid Harry Potter onto that rock because it's in the Harry Potter section now. The Dragon Challenge. So in the movies, there's the ice horn. I don't know. There's like a fireball dragon. I'm not a huge Harry Potter fan.
I was just about to say I'm not a huge Harry Potter fan. I don't know. I don't think I've even seen all of the movies or read all the books. So, but there are dragons in it.
Yeah, and they overlaid it to this, and the author of Harry Potter never liked it because it wasn't really a family friendly because they're big coasters. Like it wasn't like every kid. So that's probably what I think it got torn out and they built this, which is more. It is more for like kids can ride it, but
so it's a downgrade.
Yeah, but like the ride is nuts. So you're like immersed in Harry Potter. You get on a motorbike and there's two seats. So the one seat is you're actually riding on the motorbike. There's a handlebar and everything.
Yeah.
There's a sidecar, which sits down a little bit lower. So one person gets in the sidecar, one person on the motorbike, and then you go through the course and there's launches. I don't want to give all. There's one surprise element I don't want to give away, but like
I want to know about it.
Nuts.
Come on, you got to give it away. You got to give it away.
So I mean, when you're going through the course, Hagrid is supposed to be giving you a creature lesson or something.
Right.
And you see all these different creatures. There's one point you go up, and then you go have a backwards section, and when you go backwards, you come into a building, which you get into Devil's Snare. I don't know if you're familiar with that. So in the movie, Devil's Snare like wraps you up and you have to fall out of it. So the coaster has a drop track. So the train backs onto the track and then he's like, oh, we got to do the spell to have the Devil's Snare release you. And then the track drops down like 20 feet, lines up with another track, and then you launch. Oh, it's crazy.
That actually sounds pretty badass. Like you just drop like free fall 20 feet?
Yeah.
So how does that work?
Well, it's like an elevator drop system.
So like you kind of like line the I'm thinking something like what's it called that they used to have at Six Flags Great Adventure? It was a ride where you'd get in this car, like the car.
Stuntman's Freefall.
What's that?
Stuntman's Freefall.
Yeah. Is that the one where it was like an L? Where you would go up, the car would go forward onto another track and then drop down. Is it something similar to that?
So when you're going, you back into the track. So you back into the track and then, brakes lock.
Yeah.
And then a pin like unlocks from the track in front. So you're not connected to that track. And then the whole track system drops. And when it drops, there's another track down here. So then it lines back up. relocks a pin so the track, it's locked to that.
You're like
And
back
then the
in.
train moves forward, and then you hit a launch and come out of the tunnel.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah,
That
there's a
I
couple.
don't think there's anything like that by us.
No, Williamsburg Busch Gardens for Bolton. That has in the indoor section. There is a drop track in that.
What type of ride is it?
It's
Is it
a
like a regular
steel,
roller coaster or
yeah,
is it
regular
a
steel coaster. It looks like you're in a car, but it's a long stretched car.
right? So okay, so you did the that ride.
Mm.
Were there any other updates or changes or things in that park that what park was that in again?
That was Islands of Adventure
Okay.
at Universal.
I gotta say, I'm still kind of bummed about Dueling Dragons not being there anymore. I know that
Hey,
sounds like a silly thing to say, but
no,
I
a
feel
lot of
like that
people
was
say
a ride that even if you weren't into roller coasters, you've heard of at least.
well, it
Did
had the
they?
iconic two loops that you came. I think it was 10 inches from colliding. They said like you almost the two trains almost would hit.
Yeah, yeah,
Everyone should know that's like a big like photo op and
and on top of that, it was a ride that, like, for example, Batman and Robin and Rolling Thunder, and I know there's a lot of rides that
dueling,
were what's that?
dueling,
Dueling,
basically.
yeah. They're dueling roller coasters, and they would never get run that way. Like, I don't think I've ever seen, when Rolling Thunder was in existence, I don't think I've ever seen it actually have both trains except for like the last day that it was going to be operated. Um, I've personally never seen Batman and Robin when it was operating. I know it did for a brief period of time,
Mm.
but I feel like that was one of the few rides that they made sure they advertised it as a dueling roller coaster. They made sure that both sides were always running and always launching at the same time. And it's such a bummer that they got rid of that.
Well, the one of the they had a lot of issues with that. Well, one how it would line up is that the chain lifts. So there's a software that would the chain lifts would be able to weigh the trains, and then they one would be able to speed up, and like they'd be
Yeah,
able to like using the
balance it.
chain lift speed get it to like all right now they're gonna duel.
Yeah, I remember
Um,
that. I remember I've only ridden it once, and I remember that they would literally, like, I remember seeing one of the trains would go ahead, one of the, and like, it was basically to. We found out later that it was exactly what you said, so that they could set it up so that if, let's say, one train was heavier or lighter and
mhm.
would potentially carry more or less speed, they would set it up so that it could, you know, you got that photo op and you got the opportunity to see everything when it was synchronized the way that it was
Mm.
intended to be, um, which was kind of cool and is a sad thing to see it go.
Yeah, well, people actually ruined the dueling part because people were bringing rocks on the train and throwing them at the other train when they'd go, and so then the rock would
Uh,
hit the other train, and it just people ruined that part. So then they took they what they said they erased the line of code from the computer software that would make it line up the
Balanced.
duel. Yeah. So then
That
they kind of
sucks.
like yeah, but again, people, because then they even
Yeah.
had it for a while that you went through metal detectors, trying to get
Right.
people catching other like people would bring whatever on the ride. They're like, oh, what's in your pockets? Why do you have rocks? Like, it's just people ruin
I
that.
I don't think that I would ever consider bringing rocks or any other type of, like, thing to throw at anybody on a roller coaster like that. That's like the farthest thing from what I would be thinking about.
Yeah.
And it's terrible that there were not only people were thinking of it, but there were so many people thinking of it that they had to change the way that they operated the ride.
Mhm. Yeah.
Ugh.
Because even now, so like Hulk, the big coaster down there now, you go through a metal detector. So like the phone has to go in a locker, which is the locker's free, but
Right.
it's like you have to have empty pockets to ride the ride because they're afraid someone's going to try and bring something on it and throw it down. Maybe a guest because you know how it goes over the pathways. Hulk,
Is that's another standing roller coaster, right?
and you're
If I'm
sitting on that, but it's green. It has the launch lift hill.
uh
It's right at the like as soon as you enter the park, it's right to the left. Like it's right there. The
I,
loops are right in the lagoon.
Okay, it's been. I mean, we're talking like 13 years since the last time I was even in Florida, so it's been a minute for me. um, and at that time, like Dueling Dragons was still a dueling coaster, and there were far fewer restrictions on. Like I don't even think at that time you were required to have like empty your pockets or like you could literally get on a ride and they weren't checking your pockets. Once you were in the park, it was like you're every man for himself type of thing,
Mm.
which I kind of wish we could go back to because it sucks to have to always get a locker or whatever. But I will say this: one of the things that I was always afraid of when I would get on a ride, and so I ended up always having pants that would have like closable pockets, is
Hmm.
that I was always paranoid that my cell phone or my wallet or something was going to go flying out, and that not that it would hit somebody, but that I would, you'd see at Six Flags. I remember when I was like 16 years old, you'd see like the loop area lined with like people's wallets and hats
Hmm.
and glasses and just stuff by the end of the day. And it's like, yeah, that's not really what I would like to have happen to my stuff.
Yeah.
So you went to Islands of Adventure. Did I get that
Yep.
right? What other parks were you at in Florida?
So I was at SeaWorld, which they did a pretty good job. They're one of the higher end parks that were doing, like they said, cleaning. Everyone for the most part was wearing a mask. Employees were yelling at you if you didn't have a mask. And they even had like they had fireworks. They had a fireworks show going on. So again, which again you got in the stadium, it's every other row and they want you to leave, so many seats in between you and the next group, which everyone for the most part was listening to.
Yeah,
They even had like a little festival where you can get some beer, and I think it was Italian food when I was there. And even that, the little line for that, and they had all the tables spread out where you could sit and eat.
yeah. So, so when you're in there, that for the most part, people were, social distancing and doing their
For the
part and
most
all
part, you,
that.
you get once in a while. Like I always left the space in front of me because, like, I'm like, do you really want to be breathing down someone's neck? Like, why is that even something that like people are like, I can't be 6 feet away. I have to be right next to the person. Like,
Well, that's another. Yeah, like I don't necessarily think that. I think that there's a lot of things that we are doing that aren't necessarily helping, but not necessarily hurting. But the 6 foot thing, like I don't have a problem with, primarily because it just keeps people out of your own personal space.
mhm,
Like 6 feet is not that far away,
yeah,
but it's definitely like, okay, you're not in my personal bubble
yeah,
anymore. And I feel like that's one of the things that was kind of unfortunate about dealing with situations like that, is you would be like literally almost forced to breathe down the neck of the person in front of you. And then by consequence, the person behind you would be doing the same thing. So
mm.
yeah, I'm with you. I don't know that it's such a bad thing that. Uh,
I hope it stays.
yeah,
Or
I
at
mean,
least in 2 feet. Like when I was at Tampa Busch Gardens, that one people really, I don't know. It just people weren't wearing masks, and again, employees did an excellent job. They were yelling, but they would just keep walking. Like they were like, "Ah,
yeah,
screw you." And I had to ask. I'm like, "Hey, can you take a step back?" I'm like, "Just a step back." And the
yeah.
one lady and her daughter, she's like, "Oh, I keep forgetting about this." And it's like, it's not like, do you need to be breathing down my neck to begin with? Like,
Well,
just one step back.
the one thing that I will say is that unless someone's being deliberate and rude about it, I can see myself just kind of like, oh, there's space there. Let me, like without thinking, because of the way
Mm,
that we've, you know, our whole lives, it's never been a thought in our mind. I could see myself inadvertently encroaching on that space just because it's like, oh, there's space there, the line's moving, or I'm like
mhm.
putzing around on my cell phone while I'm waiting online, and accidentally encroaching on people's personal space. But like, there's no reason to do it intentionally. Like I see these people that are like literally, I don't know if you saw the video. I think it's hilarious but terrible at the same time. A woman that wanted to be let into a bar, and she didn't want to wear a mask, so they were keeping the door shut, and she like threw herself at the door and then started like licking the glass on the door. I'm like,
I did not see that video.
It's pretty crazy. I mean, I wouldn't. Number one, I don't think anybody needs to drink that bad unless you're an alcoholic. Number two, I wouldn't want to lick that door no matter what. It's a glass
Yeah.
door that people are using to like walk in and out of a bar. Who
Yeah.
knows what the fuck is on that? But it was just hilarious because she would get like a running start and then like hurl herself at the door. And they're just like standing inside like it's dead bolted shut. You're not going to get in. I'm not even holding the door anymore. You're going to either break the glass and you're going to get hurt from that, and then we're going to sue you to replace the glass, or you're not going to get in. But yeah, I definitely can back the personal space aspect of this whole thing. So when you were in the parks, did they have? You mentioned that they were walking around disinfecting stuff.
Mm-hmm.
How do they handle like personal disinfectant? Like, are there stations everywhere? Or
Oh, there was hand sanitizers everywhere. That one positive thing, like Tampa Busch Garden actually had wash stations, and I think Islands of Adventure did too. So there'd be like a little foot pedal pump with a sink, and you can actually use soap and wash your hands. Usually, it was by like where your food places were.
Yeah.
Pretty much, all the rides had hand sanitizer things right when you board the ride, and then as soon as you get off. Islands of Adventure actually made like for Hagrid's. There was a guy in the line with a bottle of Perel, and it's just hold out your hands, squirt. Okay, you can squirt. Like he was giving you a dab for everyone that was about to board the ride. So
that's actually pretty good to see. I think that with regards to stuff like that, it's probably best practice anyway.
Well, yeah. Like for years, I always had a little clip-on thing of hand sanitizer because I go to parks for many, many years, and I always brought hand sanitizer. Like that was one of the normal things. It's like keys, cell phone, hand sanitizer. All right, we're off to the park. Like that.
Yeah.
That was something that I kind of did anyway.
Sure.
Now I will say it. Maybe I did it a couple times throughout the day, like years past. Now every ride. Let me.
Well, it's also so much more in your face about it now. Where, if they have it there, like if I'm walking by a hand sanitizer station anywhere, unless I've literally just done it, it's just like having free hand sanitizer.
Yeah.
Whatever. But yeah, I think that generally speaking is a good thing. So like, how did you feel about as far as like, Florida is? You were there at a time when they're talking about coronavirus blowing up. How did you feel as far as like safety in the park and your chances of like actually catching it in these places?
Honestly, in the parks and everything, I felt 100% safe. I really just felt that, like, again, from what the staff, they're going around spraying everything. And again, you limit what you touch. So like,
sure.
And having the mask on, you're not like, all right, if I'm going to touch my face, I'm like, hang on, let me hand sanitizer, then take the mask off or whatever. Like with the mask, it helps not like, oh, hang on, I have an itch. Like, oh, let me hand sanitize. Like there's more of a reminder that like, oh, let me just don't touch this handrail and touch my face.
Right.
And like, even like I wasn't really touching handrails. Like I really did try and limit what I touched in line. Like I honestly felt very safe. It just, you saw the cleaning. For the most part, people were staying away from you. And even a couple times ate indoors, which was,
what?
Here. Yeah, no, in Jersey, it's like, what? You went indoors to eat? Like, yeah, it was quite nice.
Yeah, don't get me started on that. I would love to be able to eat indoors right now, out publicly. Although I will say this. There are some restaurants by me that have done a phenomenal job with the outdoor dining in a way that I don't think that they would have done if we didn't have to do this. Like there's a restaurant right by my house called 618 that there's like the attention to detail on everything actually kind of makes the experience of going out to eat just a little bit nicer in general, because like you go there and they're actually the only place that I've been to that still uses cloth napkins, but to delineate a used cloth napkin and used silverware versus fresh, they actually have it like in a plastic bag, like covering on the
Okay.
table. They obviously have the disposable menus, and everything is like individual serving packet sized. So, like,
Hmm.
for example, you order a drink, and like in the past, you would actually see a bartender with an ungloved hand put the lime or orange or lemon or whatever on the glass, whatever. Now, it comes to you. You put the garnish on the drink, and it comes to you in like a little sealed container, ready to
Hmm.
go. I just think that there are actually aspects of it that I think would be great to carry over after this is all
Oh,
completely
for
gone.
sure.
Just because of the like attention to detail, and it almost makes you feel like, okay, they've really thought through what they're doing.
Yeah.
Um,
That's why I really did feel I felt 100% safe going to Florida, going to all
yeah,
those theme parks. Even like with the food, all the condiments are behind the counter. So you have to ask, hey, can I have some ketchup packets? Kind of this? And they give
yeah,
it to you. And then, like, all right, here you go in like a little, like French fry basket thing.
yeah.
And the drinks, like my brother, if you have a refillable cup, for that, it's not like you could like, oh, let me refill it. They don't let you have access to the sodas. So for
Yeah,
that, because they don't want to touch your cup, they
right.
fill up another paper cup, and then that's the same size of your refillable plastic cup. And then you dump it, you take it and just dump it in your cup, and then throw the paper cup out, and then you go because they don't want like they're trying not to have the contact of,
Yeah,
oh, here's my cup that I've held all day, you
right.
touch it, which then you'd have to, like, well, now he's gonna have to wash his hand, do the whole thing. But if
Yeah,
he can have his gloves on, take a fresh cup, put it down, you grab the cup, dump, and there's no real contact exchange.
sure. Yeah, no, that's actually kind of nice too, because like another place that we went out to eat. I'm not going to say where it was because of the fact that this wasn't such a great thing.
Mm-hmm.
But we ordered drinks, and when the server came, he was holding the cup like this,
Okay.
like it barehanded, plopped it down right in front of us, and it's like, why don't you just go ahead and stir the drink with your finger there, bud? You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
when you're holding the cup like this, like your hand is in the drink, in my
Yeah.
opinion, and so we probably won't be going back there for a bit. Even though that may have been just limited to the one server, but still, uh, it's kind of nasty when you think
Yeah.
about it.
No, that's not really a way to carry a drink.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that. But so then, what other parks did you go to while you were in Florida?
I said SeaWorld Orlando, Busch Gardens
Yep.
Tampa, Islands of Adventure. Then there's two smaller parks. They're called Fun Spot.
Okay.
One's in Kissimmee, one's in Orlando. I guess it would be the equivalent of like Seaside, the ride pier, but just inland. And they have some go
Okay.
kart tracks. They actually did a very good job. Again, you got your temperature scan. They were wiping down every ride before you got on it.
Oh.
So like how like all right, so roller coaster train, the one ride at the Orlando one, it's an like inverted one, and I think there was like 14 rows.
Right.
So the first time they would load 1, 3, 5, 7, like the odds. The even rows they would clean.
Yeah.
So then the train would come around, everyone would get off. They would then clean the odd rows, and then
And
the
load
next
the
group
even.
got on the even. And that's how they would do it. So when someone got off, clean those rows. That way they were cleaning every row before someone sat in it, and you were still spaced out by a row. Like you weren't, they were spacing you out on the train.
That's brilliant.
Oh yeah,
I
they
think
were. They,
that by far sounds like the best way to do it because it's basically guaranteeing that whatever row you're sitting in
mhm.
is clean. It's been
Yeah,
disinfected.
oh, yeah.
It's dry. It's
They
like
cleaned the
ready to
most.
go. Yeah, I mean, I guess if they're a smaller park, that's
Oh
probably
yeah,
a good
there
thing to
was
know.
like nobody in the park. Had full
Right.
range of just walk on
Everything.
everything.
Yeah. Well, I mean, also too, like if you're a smaller park, that's less revolutions per hour as far as like
Yeah.
trips on the ride. That's less people that you actually have to disinfect everything with.
Mhm.
So it makes sense. Plus, like when you think about it, if you're a smaller park, you probably want to be known for being clean at a
Yeah.
bare minimum, especially right now. Um, But so overall, so now you were down there for a bit, and then when you came back, you quarantined. You got the coronavirus test. Obviously, it came back negative. What was it like getting the test? I'm curious.
Uh,
How did they do the test? How long did it take to get back?
so I
All the
came
fun
home.
stuff.
Um, Work wanted me to quarantine just and because he had someone else quarantine a couple weeks before that came from North Carolina. So he's like, well, I kind of have to have you quarantine
Sure.
because I was trying to fight him. Like I had all the facts. I'm like, these places are cleaning, and I'm gonna go down there. I'm gonna tell you the same thing that they're, which they were. They're doing a fantastic job cleaning. But went right to the walk-in by my house. I got not the full brain tickle. I don't know. It felt like they just went.
Brain tickle.
I feel like it just went an inch and a half up my nose, and I think it was like 10 circles, one nostril, 10 circles, the other one, and then they're like, "All
Yeah.
right, we'll call you with results."
How long did it take to get it back?
It actually took a while. I got it 5 days.
That's a decent amount. Well, that's actually quicker than I would have expected.
Well, they were telling me 3 to 4 days, and I was like, "Where's my results?" And they're like, "Oh, it's still waiting. It's still."
Well, you know what's funny about that is that like I know a few people that work in a hospital, and they say that they have tests that you can get back in like I don't know 30 minutes or something like that.
It's like a spit test that you can get the quick. It's like a quick
Oh,
result.
I don't know how they do it. I haven't seen it administered. You might be right, but it's interesting that it takes them, you know, 3 to 5 days even to analyze something like that. But so, what was it like having them like swab the inside of your nose like that?
It just was like very. It was uncomfortable, and I
Sure.
wanted to sneeze, and it's like don't sneeze, don't sneeze. Like
Oh well,
I almost got.
that's like I mean, sneezing right now in public, sneezing or coughing in public is almost like you get a scarlet letter. The scarlet letter on you. It's like you just sneeze like he just sneezed and he's in public. Like what just happened? Does he have it? Is he dying? Am I gonna catch it? Um, Even though it could just be allergies. Like
Yeah,
I and like I have a consistent cough just in general. Like I've had it for years because I have allergies and I have like a mild like congestion at all times, and so that results in a cough every like a clearing my throat kind of cough.
hmm
Now I feel like I'm not allowed to do that in public anymore. But so overall, the general experience in theme parks right now is actually it sounds better than it used to be because it's cleaner. There's
hmm
less people. You get more for your money because you're actually like going on rides more often because there's less
yeah.
people.
I would say because like my trip, I got lucky, and some of the other parks that I've been going to got lucky. I have heard some quote unquote horror stories from Six Flags that lines just like because not all the rides are open to like all the indoor rides are pretty much closed. Well, up here, down in Florida, pretty much everything was open.
Yeah.
But up some of the parks here, they do have some other rides that were closed. Like anything indoor was definitely closed in Jersey, Pennsylvania, and then some other rides. Just I don't think they got because usually the parks up here are seasonal,
Mm-hmm.
so the winter is when they do all their maintenance,
Sure.
and that COVID hit kind of when the tail end of maintenance. So I think that screwed up their maintenance schedule on some of the rides. So I don't think they were able to get them up and running.
Right. That makes sense. I mean, if you're shutting everything down uh, in the tail end of when people think like, oh, well, what are they doing? It doesn't matter. When in reality, they're probably just as active, I would assume, in the winter months as far as like maintenance and upkeep and
Yeah.
renovations. Um, it's definitely going to have an impact on the way that they have to run the park. So when you were in Florida this past trip, what was the best ride that you were on?
Probably gonna go to Hagrid's. Hagrid's followed by Kumba at Tampa Busch Gardens.
What's Kumba?
So Kumba it's a steel coaster. It's sit down.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's been photos of it because you go up the lift hill and then it makes a big swooping turn. And you come back under the lift and the loop goes around the lift hill.
Mm-hmm.
I know that has been photographed because it's like an aqua colored track and the cars are yellow. I know like that photo has gone around, and it just keeps going with all these other different loops. And then they're near the end, they have these corkscrews that interlock, and they go like the way there's like a trench kind of dug where the track is, but when the car goes over it, it looks like it's just on the grass. It's like it just
That's kind of cool.
It's cool, and it was very photogenic ride.
Yeah.
But the ride itself, I was like, this built was 93, and I'm like, it was running smooth.
Perfect.
It was packing a good ride. So
I feel like a lot of the times there are parks, like the parks in Florida tend to keep their rides a little bit better maintained than up here. I don't know if that's a result of the winter and having to like store the rides, or the fact that they stuff sits and then starts to decay because of that, or if it's just that the parks in Florida are just better at what they do.
I think it's the temperature, because even like I've been out to California years past, rode some older steel coasters there, and how much smooth, like I'm like, this is pretty smooth compared to the same ride at Six Flags. I think it's just, you have the heat, 100 degrees during the summer, and then, below 10 degrees during the winter. I think the contraction of the steel, that heat cold over the years, I just think that, does something to lessen the smoothness of the ride.
It also lends credence to the fact that it probably wasn't metal fatigue with Dueling Dragons, when you figure in Florida the temperature is pretty consistent. I know it gets colder in the winter, but up here it's like you spend 3 months of 100 and whatever degrees, and then it goes into the teens for another 6 months, and then it goes back, and it's back and forth, and that's what causes metal fatigue. So yeah, you're probably right about that. But so overall, you'd say like right now, theme parks are pretty much as good,
I feel like theme parks are pretty safe right now. Like, someone's out there like, thinking about vacation or something, I would say go to Florida. If you're really not comfortable flying, I felt very safe on it and comfortable. Drive down there, because Universal's, all the parks down there are doing a fantastic job. And like Hagrid's, that coaster, you're lucky if you get on it once during the day. I was able to get on it 6 times. Yeah. Like when I went after I left the park at 3 because thunderstorms, and we went to one of City Walk, which is right outside. Like, it's part of Universal. It's where the park entrances are.
Yeah, I actually have seen that. I've been there 2 or 3 years ago, so I know exactly the City Walk at Universal.
So I went ate at one of the restaurants there, and the way they're bringing you to your table and they're asking you questions. They're like, "Yeah, I had a great day. Gone on Hagrid 6 times," and they're like, "What? Like, how did you
manage that?
How did you do? Like, what did you?" I was like, the parks weren't that crowded.
It's a plus. It's definitely a plus of going at a time like this.
Yeah, like if I would recommend going if you can. Even going to Disney. From what I've heard Disney's doing, if you can go, I would say go. Because honestly, I feel like they're safer than going to like Walmart.
Right.
Here. Because,
yeah, I mean, you're probably not wrong, considering you can go into Walmart and pretty much do whatever you want, and there's no one monitoring anything.
Well, that's the thing. Like Walmart, ShopRite, those places, one, are you getting temperature scanned? Like, I grant, if you're asymptomatic, you're not going to show. Okay. But still, how often are they cleaning the aisles? I could go in there sick, cough over all the boxes of cereal or whatever, and then the next person come and grab that box that I just coughed over. Like,
theoretically, you'd be wearing a mask, though.
Well,
in theory.
Yeah, but a lot of people aren't wearing masks in the stores now. So,
where have you been that they're not wearing masks?
Shop right by me. I've seen it that they have it on their chin.
Oh, yeah. I guess that's technically not wearing it.
Yeah, that's not the proper way to wear it.
Technically wearing, yeah, it's definitely not the proper way to wear it for sure.
So, that was one of the things when I had a quarantine. I was like, I was in this bubble of everything was getting sprayed. Like I said, the fun spots, every other train was getting sprayed down with the cleaner. How often are these stores going through and spraying the aisle?
Yeah. They're not.
Even at the cash register, how often is that stuff, the belt you put on, how often is that getting cleaned?
So I will say this. just specific to that one instance. The store that I go to actually, I've seen them do so. The cashiers have, like, they've created this like bubble around the cashier so that you really can't get anywhere near them.
Mm-hmm.
And then I did notice that what they're doing is between customers, even though they're wearing gloves, between customers they're like double gloving, and they're in between every person. They were, I don't know if it was just the one cashier, but she disinfects the outer glove, takes it off, throws it away, puts a fresh one on between every customer.
Well, that's impressive. Because
I was very impressed by that. I was like, you're probably the only person that I've ever seen that is, they talk about the gloves being a danger as far as like cross contamination, because if like you touch it the wrong way, whatever, you could be, spreading it on surfaces.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, this is exactly what they say you're supposed to do, and you're the only
Yeah.
this is the only person that I've ever seen actually do that. So, but probably the exception, not the rule.
Yeah, I think that because when going to ShopRite, I have not seen anyone have the same gloves on. I haven't seen that. I haven't seen someone grab a rag and wipe down or even like spray the keypad. Although now I'm just using the Apple Pay for everything. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, no, don't have to touch
Touchless.
that.
Yeah. That's actually a good idea. I didn't even think of that. I could do that with my Android phone. I
That's
could
paid
use
for
the
everything like that. I think once I actually had to give my card at one of the restaurants. No, actually twice. There's two. The one at City Walk, and then before I flew out, we were at Disney Spring, the downtown Disney area, and ate there because it was like, all right, we have like 4 hours to kill, and it was like we wanted to eat dinner, and it was like, don't really want to just go to some random. I was like, let me stay in a bubble, which is like, all right, Disney Springs, because that they, temperature scanning,
Everything's
cleaning everything.
disinfected.
I was like, you're in a little clean bubble.
Yeah, you did the right thing. Well, I appreciate you coming on and kind of letting us know what the outside world is like now, as far
No
as
problem. I know you want to really know about indoor dining. It's fantastic.
I bet it is. I can only imagine what it's like to eat at a restaurant indoors now.
Yeah, because actually Sunday I went to Donny Park and we ate indoors. They had an indoor restaurant. I was able to sit there and enjoy the air conditioning, have a nice sandwich.
Oh, that sounds amazing. That sounds awesome, man. Well, I appreciate it. And hopefully we'll have you on another couple of weeks, and we'll see what's going on. Hopefully we'll have more to talk about.
I'm sure. I got a couple more. August 16th is National Roller Coaster Day, so that's...
We'll have to do something after that. That's next week.
Yeah, I know.
Next week.
Friday I'm going to Hershey Park, and Sunday I'm like, all right, I'll go to Six Flags, get on Kingda Ka, and then I'll go home.
Yeah, that's exactly the way to do it. Oh, man.